birthday today. I'm 37 today. Managed to squeak out some time for a ride, so it is absolutely cold out. Woo! It's definitely right around the freezing point, and we're supposed to get quite a large dump of snow tonight. Hopefully you can hear my voice okay, because I do have my face guard on, because even with the full face, the wind that cuts through is getting quite cold. So I'm gonna have to see how this goes. Of course I can hear myself fine, I'm just not sure how much the face guard actually muffles my voice getting to the mic. So we'll check that out. Since it's so cold out, I am just taking a little back route here to give the engine and the carb a little chance to warm up before I open her up with all its glory on the main road here. Always good to give her a chance to warm up, but some days I just really, unfortunately, don't have the time, and I have to kind of force her to go. That, and when it is that cold out, she doesn't like to idle without a little bit of love and assistance, which is fine. I found with these older carb bikes, you need to kind of find a happy medium between having it run well cold at idle or having it run well while it's warm, because you only got one setting and the bike has to run in a range of temperatures, so you have to kind of find your happy medium. I did recently increase the idle, I want to say quarter turn, and I increased the fuel the fuel screw on the carb for about a quarter of a turn also, because in the cold weather the fuel is denser, so you do actually get more, well, it's not really octane, but you get more BTU powers per milliliter of fuel than you do at, say, 90 degrees C. The downside, though, even though you do have actually more condensed fuel energy wise, it doesn't like to burn as well at a lower temperature. It will sorry, this one's a little bit sketchy here, so I always like to take my time at that crossing, because there's a lot of animals that live around the tracks here and they like to skirt across there. Domestic and otherwise, actually. We get a lot of mountain goats that come through here. If I'm lucky, I might see some today. A lot of quail and gophers and marmots and deer, although it's still hunting season for deer, so I probably won't see any right now. They like to bugger off as soon as opening season starts. Well, you can see the ice forming on the puddles. That's actually new because it was warmer out. It's in the evening now. Sun's just starting to set. I'm going to try and get a ride up in the hills here before the sun actually goes down. I only got an hour total, so half an hour out there as far as I can go, half an hour back, that type of deal. There we go. She's nice and warmed up now, so we'll open her up. So thanks for joining me for this ride. I did have some, well, like every year when you reach a new milestone of your adventure circulation around the sun, you think about the things that you've done, could have done, haven't done, should have done. And actually this kind of field beside me here that's empty now used to be a wrecker yard. Now it's completely torn up. This field beside me right now with the loader there is actually just a storm drain runoff, because the ground gets so hard in the summer here that when we do get rain, we get a lot of flash floods, because the ground's almost like concrete, and the rain and water can come from kilometers away and just like wash areas out. So sometimes when it rains here, these dog parks are actually set up to be water catches, which is a unique use of a dual purpose setup. It saves the city some cash, gives people a place to run their dog, because 98% of the time they are completely butt dry. like we're gonna get a nice sunset too. There's some snow up in the hills though. I'm not gonna get that high in 30 minutes. We'll see how far I get here. Anyway, back to the thoughts on rotating around the said sun that is being so beautiful for us right now. And you get those like occasional memes on your Facebook feed or whatnot, or your you know, the hundreds of thousands of bloggers out there providing inspirational meme-like material for what you should and shouldn't be doing in your life and how to better yourself. And a lot of them are based on condensing your enjoyment into what little time your fragile life has left in it. And the closer you get to 40, which I am slowly ticking towards, the more that seems to ring home, I suppose. Who knows? It's like every decade I seem to hit another marker. When it was 20, it was like, oh shit, I better, you know, start doing the whole retirement savings and becoming an adult thing. And when 30 rung around, it's like, oh, well, I'm in the adult thing, I better actually stop sucking at this and start becoming a proper adult. Well, it isn't doing too bad compared to a lot of my peers. I am like right on the fence of being a millennial. I do not consider myself to be a millennial because I grew up before there was internet. I grew up during dial-up internet, which if they had that now, they would not consider it internet. I still used the library. I still used library cards. I still worked my butt off at jobs to get up and get what I wanted. I had the same, I grew up raised by my grandfather and my grandmother, and they instilled a lot of values in me from the silent generation, which would be the ones that lived through the Depression era. So I do have a lot of respect for useful material wealth, stuff that you can fix up, stuff that you can continue to have, stuff that's not going to expire within a short period of time. And yeah, the older I get, the more those things actually seem to matter more. And a lot of my hobbies have not really changed, they've just switched over into hobbies that I can do basically solo on my own at nighttime. Small times like this during the day when I can solo things and not have to drag the kids along with me or the wife. Not that I don't like doing things in a group aspect, it's just with 4 kids and a wife and a job, it's really hard to mold time. Everyone has that, whether you're single or not, everyone has that aspect in their life and they always try to better it. It's all the more so when you got 4 other or 5 other people relying on you. So the older I get, the better I get at balancing those things, and the more my hobbies and interests kind of sway into those little cracks of freedom time that we manage to eke out of the day. That's why I really enjoy doing these vlogs. I honestly do. They're thoroughly enjoyable to make. I'd like to make them way better than they are. I'd like to spend way more time editing them and making them as close to perfect as I can. I do have quite a bit of editing knowledge and background, but it's the time. I could spend days editing something, and I really don't have the time, especially with waiting for, apparently my power plant is not fast enough for this new driver in front of us. Oh, well, enjoy yourself, buddy. He's not going to go too far in that car anyway. We're going to hit dirt roads in here. So, and yeah, it's getting pretty nippy. That all the puddles are frozen up now. Mind went blank. Also another problem with getting older. What was I talking about? I know it was something to do with getting older. Oh shit. Yeah, so your hobbies sort of change into these little nooks and crannies of things. I always liked bike riding. Well before I had my license, I had a 2-stroke Yamaha 175 MX. that I repaired and fixed up, and I'd push it from my house because it was illegal to drive it on the roads, even though we may have done that anyway at times. We push it on the roads like this up to the side roads where we could drive off into the parkland, which is all to the left side of me here. Is all parkland. Back in the day, you used to be able to ride your bikes anywhere on that parkland, and unfortunately, because of that fact, a lot of people didn't treat the parkland as they should have, and it really got scarred up really bad. It's a type of grassland. You can see it here in all its majestic beauty, and it grows exceedingly slow because of it's a semi-desert and it has very low water levels, and everything grows fairly slow unless we get a good amount of water in the spring. So if Buddy decides to go and scar up the land with his 4x4, it can take years for that land to open back up with grass and everything in it. So there was whole hillsides that were really just demolished from people being stupid and scarring them up with their trucks. Not so much for the motorbikes. The motorbikes, there was plenty of beautiful trails up there, and for the most part the trails were already in the lowest common denominator spot to get you from point A to point B, so there wasn't much point at all in going off path. Although some people did, don't get me wrong, that's why they cut it down, but the vast majority of the damage in the area was really from the four-wheel drive pickup trucks. Because they also, with the trucks came people, and with the people came a lot of garbage, and you get people dumping everything from TVs to pool tables to sofas to washing machines, you name it, all over the grasslands up there, and even here. This area that we're going through right now, actually, if you can look across, it's Padova City, which is one name for it. It's more commonly called Tranquille, which is the name of this whole area here, named after the Indian chief in the area, Tranquille. There is a larger building right in front of me there, and many other ones farther off. That one in front of me was actually a building for it was last used for like war vets, and they call it an old man's home, so people that were let's take a little scoot over here too, actually, just on my right. Just curious what this area is showing up like. So this pavement structure, or concrete, what's left of it, structure to my left here, this used to be a piggery. They used to grow all their own pigs and some sheep. My grandfather John used to work there, and that was for this whole community behind me. It's probably one of the most interesting places. It's under sale right now, so you can't go into the land, and they do have thermal and image cameras all over the place, so you really can't get in there without setting off an alarm. And lots of people try, and a lot of people get in trouble, and I'm not going to be one going in there. Been in there plenty though, because a lot of my family worked there back in the day, and I grew up playing around this creek and this area out here. So I have a lot of respect for the place and for this area, and if I'm not allowed in there, I'm not going to be going in there. It's just that simple. So this nice little parking lot here, trail up ahead going to Pine Park. It's a walk only trail, not going to be going on today. I just thought I'd take a scoot in here and see what I can see. But this whole area here would be where they would graze the pigs. There is some feed troughs and everything on my left now. Whew, that water is cold. Whew, got a little bit splashed in the boot there. But yes, Tranquille was also called Padova City for a while, because an Italian bought it at one point after it was shut down as being an asylum, and TB asylum. It was also a mental asylum for a while, just after the TB epidemic, mostly for children and youth. And they would take them out to Pine Park behind me here and spend the day up there as like a camp out type area. Yeah, this ice is pretty thick for just freezing, because this was all melted earlier today. So that's just from the cars heading out here after their little day hike. I'm not sure what I can see here from this vantage point, but we'll scoot across the road here and have a look at the city. There's a few little vantage points up top that I can talk a little bit more about it. You can actually overlook and see it a little better. Unfortunately, like, all the buildings are so decrepit that it's not safe to go in them at all anymore. There was right where this yellow train is parked, it's actually a repair train, off into the distance, kind of where that wood pile of ties is there. Used to be the old Tranquille train station where they drop off mail for the area, and I would absolutely love to metal detect in that area, like all the stuff that people would have dropped or fallen off the train while they were moving shipments of stuff in and out, just be loaded full of cool things. I will not metal detect on the land, where the actual area buildings are back there. At one point, I want to say it probably had close to maybe 6,000 residents. I know it was common to have more than 2,000 at a time. All the fields all here were all grown. They grow their own food. You can't really see it well, but there's two stacks back there that were for a coal-fired generator. They made their own power. They had their own dairy. They had their own cantina, their own fire hall. It was really their own completely independent city. Everything they made themselves, and they didn't even import any power from the main city of Kamloops for until the late 70s. I think they finally ran power cables out here, but they didn't need to because they had their own power generating plant. I think it was more of a backup system. They have their own septic field, you name it, their own sufficient little city. Absolutely amazing place with a lot of history, and they did a lot of good for the community. Unfortunately, a lot of people died there too, like a lot. So much so they have massive unmarked graves, basically just huge ditches with all the bodies from the tuberculosis epidemic that hit not just this area, but people come from all over Canada and the US to come here to get treated for TB, because the dry climate we have here was supposed to be, they thought at the time, the best way to kind of cure it. So people would come here to get better from TB, and unfortunately a lot of things that they prescribed to do had little to no effect on the tuberculosis that they were afflicted with, and they would end up dying. It was quite commonly called the consumption disease because it would slowly consume your body. And interestingly enough, that is exactly what Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula to be precise, was written after. He found a manuscript describing a case of consumption in the States, not related to here, but basically the same time frame, same area, same problems. The creek is so beautiful, and it starts to ice up like that. Anyway, he found this manuscript, which I believe was kind of like a diary journal log from this lady from the area that had consumption, and they thought that she was dead. But unfortunately, because you wither away and you look very much dead, and they buried her before she actually passed, and she managed to get back out of her grave. And of course, that's where our story of modern stories of Dracula and Bram Stoker's versions of it are actually rooted in. So it's a horrible, horrible disease. And so much so that they built whole cities. Like, this place is huge to deal with it. A lot of money went into it, government-wise. Oh, it is quite beautiful. Trying to see whether I should just gear down for these hills. Gonna be going way up there. These hills are very, very steep. I'm not sure if they'll pick that up on the camera or not, but I'm gonna pop it into neutral here and actually put it into low. Getting it in and out with the lower gear can be a bit of a pain. Like you just saw there, it can be pretty jumpy. But man, does it ever make a difference on the gearing. Oh, cool. Fighter jets. Check that out.